Hey there, welcome back to AskAmy. I have a question today from Shawn. Shawn says, my amazing mother died at home 1 week ago. I'm blessed to have been with her. I'm still at the side of my 95-year-old father, helping him on his journey to follow my mom. Walking around the house, looking at each beautiful piece of pottery or artwork hanging on the walls, the carved birds, the books, the beautiful rugs and wooden furniture, I see not only lovely things, but I see exactly how I became who I am. Bird book and binoculars on the shelf, check. Seashells in a dish, check. Plants in the window, check. Books everywhere. Our paths have in some ways been different, but now I see how my path has grown from hers. And this brings me to my question. How does a person decide what things to keep and what to let go of? There are real practicalities like getting things across the country to my home, to my small home with a little room for that matter, but they do need to be dealt with. And once things are given away, they're gone. I know that things are only things. I also know that the sum total of all of these things means mom to me, and mom and dad. Many are lovely, some may be valuable, some not, and they speak of her to where I came from, in part who I am. Having said that, although my mom loved artistic, unique works, her life was about much more than that, but her home was a special place. I have 2 brothers, a sister-in-law, and a nephew, all with different ways of taking on the world. We are a family that is not loud, does not argue. So 1, how do I decide what things are important to me? And 2, how do I find the voice to say so to my brothers? And then she left a follow-up question. How do I deal with choosing a thing and finding out that another family member has chosen the same thing or even feels ownership of it? So I'm sorry for your loss, Shawn, and sounds really beautiful. It sounds amazing that you could be there with her, and that there's a little more to the question that I didn't read, but that you were able to kind of see more about her life and who she was, and that you're seeing all these connections. That's amazing. So I think to your questions, I think these questions answer themselves as you see that these objects, and you know this, but as you really, really come to embrace this and see that physical things, at best, these physical objects are maybe triggers for something that you don't need the physical object for. So you can look at a bird carving or a book or a piece of art, and it brings back memories. You feel a connection to that object. Yes, of course. You feel a connection to your mother, of course. But see if you can just keep seeing how the object is the proxy. It's just the trigger. You don't care about the trigger. None of us do. We don't care about the thing that gets us what we want. We care about what we want. And what you care about, what's actually important to you here, is what you're seeing and what you're feeling, and that you're realizing, wow, there's this connection in this love. It's not a tracing back of, oh yeah, I did art and she liked art and we have this in common and that's how I became who I am. Like, the mind will make some of those connections, that's fine, but that's not what this is about. That's not not even what you're looking to preserve, really. And that stuff, this sense of connection and a sense of how you came to be, how you are, and what you have in common with them. Again, that's not about these objects. At the very, very best, those objects trigger that. But the objects aren't needed to trigger that. And what's being triggered takes up no space. It doesn't need to move cross country. It doesn't need to be chosen or left behind or sold. That's you. It's yours. It's you. So I think sometimes when there's a loss, there's a sense of loss, obviously, and so the mind gets kind of eager to grab and preserve, and that's just so normal. So it makes so much sense. But just be careful that what you're wanting to sort of grab and preserve, or what your mind is wanting to grab and preserve, is not really what you're wanting. Like, you already have what you want. I mean, you don't have your mother there in physical form anymore, but the thoughts and the memories and who she was and that connection, again, it's not as tied to these physical objects, these trinkets, as your mind will pretend it is. And of course, again, there's no shame in this or confusion in this even, because of course the mind will connect all of that with a physical trinket, because the mind operates in form. It operates in what it can see, and labels and names and specifics, and so it will do that. It will make it feel as if you need those things, or on some level. You're not saying this, but as if you kind of need those things to remember her, or that they're super valuable in themselves. And I just want you to hold that very loosely. You are already what's important to you. And you're not going to forget that just because you don't have those physical reminders. If you live cross country from her, you know that already. You didn't forget that because there wasn't, the house to walk through. That's not going to happen. So all of this, it just allows you to hopefully hold it all more loosely. It's a really weird trick of the mind. And again, this is not uncommon when there's a loss. And at the extreme end even, there's quite a bit of research that shows people who collect a lot of things, not just collectors, but maybe people that we would call hoarders, or people who have, those kinds of issues with objects, that very, very frequently follows a really tragic loss for them. So again, that's not your case. I'm just saying it makes sense. I want you to just get a sense of how your mind is doing something that it really kind of makes sense by, and this happens for lots of people. We get attached to the objects a little bit because they just feel like the last something. They feel like, oh, I need this as my reminder or something. And I really kind of just want you to see that the mind only knows to grab onto form, but what you actually want and care about is formless, and it's not going anywhere, and the mind can't see it. So it will look outward, but it's there. You will feel it. You will spontaneously, for the rest of your life, have memories of your mother and know what you know. And you can have, a handful of objects, whatever you can get across country and fit in your house and agree with your brothers, you're going to take. So you're not going to have them all. You may have a favorite that you don't get, and that will be okay. But you're going to have some, and let that kind of, again, see those as just a little helpful trigger for what you really already have. They're just the proxy. So I hope that helps, because I think, when it comes to who gets what, and I think that's a concern of yours of what if they feel ownership over it and I also really want it? The whole thing about ownership is psychological, and we don't own anything. What does your mother own? It's like we're here, we pretend we own stuff, and then we're gone. We don't own anything ever. And again, really, really to say that in a time when we're seeing that, when there is loss, the mind goes into, high alert, sometimes wanting to own. So that's why these things can feel especially tricky right now. But you don't own anything. You never have. You never really will. And I bet you'll navigate it okay. I bet with this looser way of seeing it, again, you'll get some things that are important. You might not get everything, and that's going to be okay. So thanks for sending your question. I hope it helps. And sorry for your loss, but thank you. I think it's a super helpful question that allows us to look at things in a different way beyond just the specifics. So send your questions to AskAmy@thelittleschoolbigchange.com, and I'll see you guys next time.